This is Defacto Review, where we run down the top news from the previous week, and then we get together and debate what happens next. Hi, I'm Terrence Edwards, and with us tonight is our host, Jarl Defacto. Hi, Jarl.
Hello.
So we're back to our regular schedule now. There may be some changes in the future, but those will be announced. Do you have any message for the viewers?
Well, first we will cover this week's event, and
Sure.
from next week we're going to change a little bit our time to start at 9 o'clock so that we cover completely what we want to do. And today now we'll cover the landsliding. Two events happened in Mongolia. So let's go one by one.
Sure. Okay, just to start, let's roll and see what we have to talk about today.
Opposition Mongolian People's Party wins majority seats in landslide victory. Mongolia speculates on who its next prime minister will be. Mayor Erdenet Bat-Uul defeated in city elections. Mongolia to expand its shareholding in Erdenet mine to 100%.
So beginning with the election, the Mongolian People's Party swept parliamentary elections this week, winning 85% of total seats. The General Election Committee reported on the 30th of June. There was widespread high turnout nationwide voter turnout with 72.1%. The Mongolian People's Party took 65 out of a total 76 seats in parliament. The Democrats took just 9. The Mongolian People's Revolutionary Party took only a single seat, with the only independent seat going to the popular singer Samand Jalkhan. Only about half of all incumbents won back their seats, mainly from the Mongolian People's Party. So, Jarl, this was not so much a surprise for a lot of viewers. I think after 4 years of a downward spiraling economy, a loss by the Democratic Party was not unexpected, but it was stronger than many expected, I think, as well. Looking at the general makeup composition of this year's parliament, or the one soon to be formed, what's different compared with the one under Nur Valtenhoyg as well as Chmed Sakenbilik?
Remember, there were 69 independent candidates.
Yeah.
And just one came out. And there are 15 parties, only 3 parties. One is very nominal, just one. And 13 women compared to 10 from last time.
So picked up 3.
Yes. So altogether we have more female candidates, deputies, which is good news, and just one independent, which is also good news because independent deputies don't play important role usually, other than they make too much populistic noises. Secondly, so now let's think about what happened. Why is that so? What is the reason? I found out, for me at least, a couple of the points I would like to share. First, it is a matter of changing the structure, the system of election system. Before we had this majoritarian and proportional systems, and they have abolished this proportional system.
Yeah.
And the reason they have abandoned that system is that system didn't work. Proportional system of election means that you have a political large parties. They are truly leaders, only 2, the most 3. They are competing with each other, which was not the case as well. Why? I think Mongolian political parties have not been mature enough as institutions. They had not enough leaders inside, and they had always very big conflict of interests. That's why they have so many fractions. They are fighting to the death. And the reason they have fractions, it is a party financing issue, election financing issue, which is still a dark horse for us up to now. So this is one reason why they couldn't make this election, one. Secondly, I think Democratic Party were rather arrogant in the sense that they were saying that everything they are doing is great, but it was almost everything was on the debt.
Yeah.
It was everything on borrowed money, and domestically and internationally. And these costs of those borrowing loans were so much that we had almost a quarter of current revenues of budget we have to pay for. So that's one thing. Everything they have been creating was on the borrowed money. The bad news is they were talking about the borrowed money as like a great construction of the century, but they were never talking about how we are going to pay the debt. There's no single comment, nothing. And the third, I think, reason was this landslide. Reason was also this information of Erdenet Russian shares sale. 49% of Russian government sold a share to Mongolian private company.
Mongolia taking back that interest.
Yeah, sounds good because it's from the government. It comes to private sector, Mongolian private sector. I don't think many people oppose it. But the issue is why this company. How happened that all this was they kept in secret, and the prime minister had to announce. He had to enforce it, I think, to announce the reasons, as the information was leaked out on a Russian website a couple of times, and it was immediately used by People's Party candidates that time about the sales of Erdenet, which made in shock all Erdenet voters. That's why they have been running away from Democrats, and they voted everybody, whoever is from the People's Party. And that news information was like, shooting at your feet. Mm. This is the third reason, I think. Now, we will talk about the Erdenet sales separately.
Yeah, we'll get forward with that piece of news a little bit later.
The only thing, what is clear is they were in so much in hurry that 24 hours before the election starts, they had to make this statement. Mm. So there was something very not planned well. That's I'm telling you.
Mm. Well, I think looking at the results, the election rules did indeed push out the independents and the smaller parties. That seems quite clear. But what I think the voters really made clear was the message, out with the old, in with the new. We have 39 first-time MPs, which, I think that's quite significant.
Yeah, this is also a warning too, because we have a lot of experienced parliamentarian who were not necessarily the merit-based or the best talents we have, but many of them have been elected just because the people didn't like Democratic Party. Mm-hmm. So I hope these candidates realistically understand what were their chances as an individual and as a party candidate. So this is a matter of realization, in particular internally for each parliamentarian.
And remembering way back to 2012, 4 years ago, there was a lot of outcry because there was just tons of redundancies in the government. There was one claim I heard, 50% turnover in the ministries. Do you think this could be similar or even more now that the Mongolian People's Party were actually the opposition and had no presence in the ministries?
Most probably they have to do, because nominations in the public offices in Mongolia recently through maybe 10 years became not merit-based. It is based on how loyal you are. This man or woman is loyal to the new leadership, mm-hmm. and it was cronyism, many things. So I think if many of them are selected based on that, probably this new party have to change some of them, hopefully less. And the problem is we cannot in this way get the political institutions working as institutions. We keep wiping out people from time to time, and we never get stuff that is working for a long time. So that's a big problem, and I don't exclude that.
Okay, we're moving on to what actually will be the next step of this process. President Sakia Elbadorj has promised a speedy transition to the new government under the Mongolian People's Party that should conclude before the start of Naadam Festival. Members must be sworn in with the chosen chairman of the parliament as well as the executive of the government before the 5th of July for confirmation by the president. The parliament should be at full capacity by August 1st, said President Sakia Elbadorj this week. The Mongolian People's Party leader, Miangolb Engbold, is a possible front-runner for the prime minister post. He's actually the party leader for the Mongolian People's Party. As for the chairman or the parliament speaker, we've heard Niamdorj is a possible candidate. So I think for a lot of our English readers, this is the first time they've heard these names. What can you give us on the lowdown of these guys?
Well, Mongolia used to have a party leader, chair of the party, to be a prime minister if that party wins the election. But that traditions had to change after Altan Hoya cabinet was replaced by Saikhan Belek, where Saikhan Belek was a prime minister, but the party chair was the speaker.
Yeah.
So it may happen again here. Why? Because next year we have a presidential election. And I think I don't exclude that the head of this People's Party, Mr. Miangolb Engbold, may be feeling in the same way that he may think that he may run for presidential election. If it is the case, he will must probably take the prime ministership.
The presidential race will actually be held next year.
Yeah, so that's why he would go to as a speaker, because for prime minister to run as a president is more sophisticated and complicated than being a speaker. That would be my take. Second take is now on the prime ministership. They have a former prime minister, two prime minister, Bayar and Bat-Uul. Bayar looks like he's not running anymore to any political positions due to some reasons, which is not clear. But Mr. Bat-Uul is the candidate who is professionally ready for that. But I think there are a lot of ambitious politicians like Mr. Björnpetakt who would be probably also want to be running the government.
Sure.
And this time, as they say, they will have professional cabinet, which means there will be more ministers who are not parliament members. And according to their preparations to the election and current conversation they have, is they will have probably a foreign minister, justice minister, and the minister of finance will be run by parliamentarians. Most probably, my guess is a foreign ministry would be Mr. Takhtabatar probably, and then a Ministry of Finance, Mr. Huril Batar, and Ministry of Justice is to be probably Parliament member Niamdorj. But we don't know exactly. This is just a guess of people. And but one thing should be very clear this time. Mongolian Prime Minister should be able to hire and fire the minister, which was not the case before.
Okay.
So that's why we had Mr. Saikhan Belek have no power actually. He cannot nominate and he cannot fire ministers. I remember he asked 3 ministers to be fired, asked the parliament. Parliament just closed the sessions, and he was staying until the end with the 3 ministers he didn't want to work together. So this sort of
that dynamic.
No power leader, you see.
I think Saikhan Belek during his term had a lot of points where he wasn't actually allowed to move forward in the way he would have liked.
I think he was the most restricted foreign prime minister in the country. The other thing I also want to mention is, they will find somebody who will run the country anyway. They won, and at the end they won 85% of the parliamentarian seats. But now the issue is, what will the new government do? What do we expect? That's, I think, major issues, and if maybe we can share some thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay.
As far as me, if we see, you mentioned Bat-Uul. If he were to come in, I think investors would feel quite good about that. He was the prime minister under Mongolia's mining boom from 2010 to 12. So I think that would be quite good news. And you'd probably see a little bit of a rally on Mongolia's sovereign bonds. That's just my guess.
Yes. Well, it's already there in the way, in a certain way.
Point.
We have a lot now stocks related to Mongolia rising.
Yeah.
To a rather good extent too. I think the new government is to be realistic. They need to stop some programs like discounted mortgage program. They call it also price stability programs, which we cannot anymore support with the level of debt we have domestically and internationally. Second thing they need to do is also to stop that, to freeze that purchase of so-called Tavan Tolgay shares, which was very much politically motivated.
Yeah.
We don't have any money for that. And next one, I think they should do to cut the cost of the government and to freeze also certain funds and programs that they cannot support anymore.
Sure.
Next one is, I think it's a time to make a very clear registration of public property, city property, public property, land, to very clear-cut borders, coordinations to be very declared, so that they can have a tax on real estate. And the government offices, state-owned enterprises, government offices are to pay taxes as well, which they don't do. The other thing is, as I told you, that there's real estate properties to be registered properly and to be taxed. Next one, I see it's very important to have a law that forbids to change government structure and composition of public officers during 4 years. Otherwise, they will, if they change the prime minister, they will change again the structure of the cabinet, which completely plays a very bad role in developing public services. And the last one I want to tell is, now it's a new time to think over about the knowledge economy, to think seriously as other economies, traditional economies, where traditional economy will not bring the results we want to see shortly. So we need to work on we need to work on knowledge economy, to retrain young people, to realign our educational structure to the creation of the knowledge economy, so that people have access, complete access to the world market through internet. I think these sort of things the people, I think, expecting from the new cabinet.
We're going to pivot to another contest that took place this week but got a lot less attention, the citywide debates. Mayor Erdenet Bat-Uul, who is known for instituting new traffic regulations that clamp down on out-of-control congestion, as well as the out-of-control construction going on throughout the city, has also faced an enormous defeat from the Mongolian People's Party. Bat-Uul compared the Democrats' loss to a tsunami, as the Mongolian People's Party took 45 seats compared with the Mongolian People's Revolutionary Party's 34. The Democrats, they took home just 11. Former Prime Minister Sukbatur Bat-Uul has been named as a possible front-runner for the mayoral position as well as the governor. In Ulaanbaatar, the executive takes both of those positions. One name mentioned for the city council chairman has been Se Tsonadui. So again, we know Mr. Bat-Uul pretty well. We discussed him. Can you say anything about Mr. Tsonadui?
No, this is a Su Bat-Uul, another Bat-Uul.
Oh, okay.
The other is Su Bat-Uul. The small difference with the letter.
Sure.
But this man is a very experienced parliamentarian, and I guess he will be a good mayor if he will be as a mayor. Mostly he is nominated, mostly, most probably. But the issue is, okay, they will change the people, but the city election was kind of just a victim of these two double tsunamis happened, of this Erdenet information and also this misinformation of this the dislike of Democratic Party by ordinary people. But a city, Bat-Uul mayor, Bat-Uul work was quite appreciated in the country. In the city in particular, he did a lot of jobs and people are very thankful. But however, under this general running away from the Democratic Party, they were just opted by the individuals again from Democratic Party, People's Party. And People's Party, I wish the people understand that they are not elected because they are best, but just because the Democrats, as a party, didn't work well. And a couple notes on here with the new city leadership we are requiring for them to do is, first, is we need to make very clear the sales and ownership and sales transfer of titles of land and public properties to be watched and double watched again from now by civil society, as this People's Party is known because it was running the city for forever until just Bat-Uul came for the last 4 years, and they have been developing land speculation. They had created the largest corruption system in the country, and hopefully they will not redo again, and the people have not forgotten what they have done wrong with many lands Ulaanbaatar city has. That's why we want to watch it from day one of this new mayorship, city people, councils. Second thing is about the bond. They have been using a substantial part of this Chinggis bond and other securities borrowed from international market. So we need to know exactly what happened with those bonds, who used it, and who is going to pay back, how much it was used, where was it, there any conflict of interests. So all these things should be done by independent auditors.
And I think the MPP, or the Mongolian People's Party, did promise an examination of that spending.
Well, there are many promises that politicians never do, and hopefully in this case they will do it. The third thing I'm concerned about is the new international city airport. And that city airport issue, land around the airport, and the line of the highway they will do from Ulaanbaatar to this new international airport, all this land should not be given now. Should be a very clear plan of development first, then there should be very clear auction of each land. That's what we want to see with the new city. And of course we want to see back our land in Yarmak. Those Mongolians know on the way to the airport on the left side, it was a huge empty land.
It was a field.
Yes, field, which was somehow given by these political powers 4 years ago, who were running the city at that time. And now we even remember last time we talked about Zaisening, and they have been Zaisening Yarmak as well. So we Ulaanbaatar people want to have our land back of Yarmak. And they have to either do something, they pay, or we want to know who and what kind of auctions were there.
Sure.
In general, here is a good time, I think, to remind that Ulaanbaatar city must vote directly our mayor, which is not the case. We go through political system, and that man is confirmed by Prime Minister. Ulaanbaatar citizens wants to have independent from politicians, mayor, finally, and stop misusing our land by people called politicians.
Sure.
The last one is an issue of, in terms of what we would like to see, is the way how we are going to replace this Ger district with normal housing.
The urbanization plan.
Yeah, they call it reorganization, but actually what was the flaw of Bat-Uul mayor concept was, there was just, they wanted to buy, they tried to buy that piece of land with 2-room apartments,
Yeah.
which many of them did not agree.
Sure.
So I suggest now they should be in ownership of, or in the part of profit of everything they will be created on their land. For that, they should create cooperatives, they should work with the city authority, they should run the project, then they should share the profit as well. Only in that way we can do much faster the Gar district with, replace it with apartments, and plus, then it's the solution of the smoke in Ulaanbaatar city. They finally, from the city, we do expect zoning of Ulaanbaatar city, which we have been long talking, but nothing is done. They have some maps to show, but never, they don't make a zoning system. First. Second, we should have public domain of each real estate property in the city, and everywhere you just click and you know what is this real estate about, who owns it, how long, what is the value, what is the tax on real estate value. So without that information, we don't know what the secret is. All around all this property is associated with the, and finally we should have real estate tax.
Okay.
Half of this tax proceeds should go to develop that area where the tax was collected. In that way we see the value of the land well here, locations at the different, and half goes to the general pool to develop overall the city. And the Ulaanbaatar city should be must be so decentralized, so that we have highways connected, and then every Mongolians can finally drive their own car whenever they want.
It's an important point. I want to move on to our last topic while we still have time. We touched on this at the top of our program, but Mongolia will be buying Russia's stake in the joint venture with Russia, the Erdenet copper mines. The Prime Minister, the outgoing Prime Minister, Chimed Sakhanbilik, announced this just before the election. Russia's Rostec has agreed to sell its 49% interest in Erdenet Mining Corporation, as well as Mongol Rosvetsmet, which has gold and iron deposits. Rostec may receive up to $500 million from the deal, as Bloomberg has reported. These talks were actually held during the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Uzbekistan last week, or in June. So real quick, I want to get an idea of what is the legacy of this mine to Mongolia.
Well, legacy, it's so important. It is made in 1974 with Russians, the Soviet Union at that time. Now, lately, the Russians own majority. Then we have finally agreed that 51% is owned by Mongolians government, 49% by Russian government. And it was like this for some time, 20 years or so now. But this sale, I'm not sure that they have, at least there was no public information about. They have been talking about the sales of Russian share of Erdenet company in Tashkent. But however, without these two presidents' consent, this sort of transactions is not possible. Well, in Russia, I don't know, but I mean, in Mongolia, they do without our consent, but in Russia, it's impossible, I think. So if it was the dialogue, why there was no public information about that first? And second, I think this sort of transactions Russians cannot do without consent of Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Finance. So I think our two ministers know about that deal. They were part of it, I think. So the question is why? Who is instructing them to do so, and why all this information goes not public? So that's the Mongolians' public concern. But the very share, 49%, is out of Russian government hand, and it's in the private hand is good news itself. So that's why the Mongolian entity supported or owned by Mongolian Trade and Development Bank, they say that they've paid $500 million, but the fair value would be, I think, exactly the money which came to the Rostec account will be the true value of the transactions. And I suggest this 49%, 40% of it they should sell to the Mongolian government because they had all this done transactions publicly, secretly. Otherwise, I think this transaction will not work.
Okay.
And that's my concern. And the other thing is, where is this $500 million come from?
Yeah, it's a big price tag for this economy.
We don't have this much
Yeah.
about money. The Russian, by the way, websites say that it was the best ever deal Russians got from the shares they own in a foreign joint venture enterprise abroad. So, which may be true, $500 million is quite good money.
I want to end on that point because we do have to wrap up our show. We hope our briefings this evening will give all of you, the audience, a heads up on Monday for the week ahead. So any final words?
Yeah, we will try to do this it's a weekly analysis rather than a review. So we'll do our analysis every Sunday at 9 o'clock now, and we wish you to give your comments. And from tomorrow you can see that on our website, jargaldefacto.com. From morning you can rewatch it.
Great to hear.
Thank you very much.
Good night, Olimbathar.
Bye.